Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello, Fierce Factor. You are tuning in to a really important episode 76, and today we're going to discuss using outcome bundling to really retrain the consumer and fight this trend toward commoditization of aesthetic treatments. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm, and I'm the founder of KLC Consulting and the Pop Aesthetic Leadership Academy, where we help aesthetic practice owners and leaders create deeply satisfying, lucrative, freedom-based businesses that stand the test of time. And I am on a mission to help 100 inspiring and intentional women cross the next $1 million milestone in their business this year. So I came to this industry over 10 years ago as a sales rep who climbed the corporate ladder and eventually left to build a multidisciplinary institute and eventually launched the business I run today. But let me tell you, boy, have things changed over the past 10 years. Back not so long ago, there weren't so many options and really so much accessibility to information for patients. Providers were really seen as experts, and honestly, patients didn't have quite so much say in how their providers would choose to really expertly address their concerns. But let me tell you a little story about when I was on the phone with a client last month. She's a board-certified plastic surgeon who's in high demand for her skills. She proceeded to tell me a story about a patient who had really been waiting several weeks to see her for a consultation. She came in, had a great consultation, wanted to move forward with this breast augmentation procedure. So she sat down with the patient care coordinator who presented her a quote somewhere in the range of, we'll call it 10,000 plus, right? And the patient asked, hey, is it okay if I just pay for one boob at a time? Because I'm really on a budget. You guys, I can't make this stuff up, okay? Our client was in shock. Not because the patient had asked for, one boob, but because she sought her out for a luxury procedure and then wanted to negotiate with her. I mean, clearly you wouldn't walk into Hermes and ask, hey, can I get this Birkin bag but pay for the handle on another day? Patients are self-educating and asking specifically for branded procedures. So what does that mean about our industry? If I was to ask you if you believe aesthetics is a luxury industry, how would you answer? Do you think aesthetics is a luxury, or do you believe aesthetics is becoming commoditized? And I recently asked this question of a cohort of aesthetic providers at a conference I was speaking at, and really the answer was baffling. The room was split. I would say 50-50. But one professional raised her hand who had been a former business development manager for Allergan. And she shared with the room that she had spent an overwhelming amount of her time with Allergan sitting with customers and educating them around how to convince their patients that Botox was not just Botox, and its results were truly dependent on the provider. So I also shared with the room that I had done a quick Groupon search before I jumped on stage that day for Botox, and I found about 59 deals in Orange County on Botox. I honestly gave up scrolling at that point, but I counted up to 59. All of these practices leading with price, not with technique. So what that tells me is that patients truly are in the driver's seat. They will seek out the best provider, calling around for deals on Botox, and then come to you and tell you how much they need, right? Like, how much is your Botox? And then I'm going to tell you how much of it I need, where I want you to put it. What the hell? We've all seen that patient. I'll take 40 units. Actually, I only want 36 units, and I want a little here. And by the way, could you move that and do this and do it that way and by this method, right? Almost as if they think they're their provider. And so the goal for this podcast today is to really discuss with you how to retrain the aesthetic consumer mindset by using outcome bundling. And by doing this, we're going to talk about how to capture a higher spend per patient, really identify your most valuable buyer to focus on strategic offers, and design and price your own proprietary bundles. So routinely, my team will get on the phone with a business owner and we'll talk to her about her experience that she provides to her patients, right? Like the secret sauce. It's always something special. It's like the patient will come in, maybe they're getting aromatherapy, they're getting fanned with palm leaves. Maybe there's hot men feeding them grapes. I don't know. It's like a full-blown experience. As they're describing how amazing their practices are, maybe there's the lavender towel. There's something special. But ultimately, patients are being pampered like kings and queens. And so we'll ask the owner, this is amazing. How are you showcasing this incredible experience? Show us how you're marketing the secret sauce to your patients. So they'll say, okay, yeah, sounds good. Let's maybe pull up our Instagram, right? So they'll pull up their Instagram and whip up a picture of, you guessed it, a cool sculpting machine, right? Or, insert any kind of device that is not, a hot man inserting grape in patient mouth. Okay. I kid you not. You guys, why do we do this? Why are we constantly marketing the things instead of the experience or the outcome? And my belief is that it's really mainly out of fear. We're too focused on transactions versus the longer term relationship with the patient. And so we lack the confidence in our ability to differentiate what we have to offer, right? My Botox versus your Botox. Maybe the patient tells us they're on a budget, and so we get scared and we want to make sure we capture that spend. Or maybe the patient might say, I'm not fully ready for a treatment, and so we just give them a little bit. Or maybe he would say, I just want what my friend had, and I don't want to talk about the other things today. Okay, you guys, but this is our fault. We need to stop this, and the only way to do this is to become the obvious choice for our clients by focusing on building trust with them. And that means that we're looking to address the actual concern that they have, really connecting with that patient, and then showcasing a greater level of service than they came in for. We need to show them that they're worthy of that service, that they're absolutely worthy of getting the very best optimal outcome possible. So you're maybe listening to this and you're like, Kaylee, this all sounds great. But the reality is we have patients that come in and they're like, hey, I'm on a budget. And I get that. But let me remind you that the buying power of a patient and our consumers' potential to spend is directly related to the value or the perception of the offer. You have all had those patients that are like, I can only afford 36 units of Botox, but they're coming in all dripped out in their Chanel swag or Gucci purse. They most likely have a much higher need, but they're trying to mitigate their risk. And so they might be coming in to test you out. So maybe they're asking for Botox because that is just the most obvious, simple first step for them. Does not mean that they don't specifically want or need more than that. So I want you to remember that a patient is actually more likely to leave a practice because they were not satisfied with the results than because they were challenged to spend more while they were there with you. So what do you do about that? Essentially, the plan is to increase our lifetime customer value. If you don't have the conversation with them about getting them on that higher level of service, those higher level offers, your patients may end up leaving because of the outcome, not because of the price. So let's be thinking about relationships versus transactions. And this is really the first step here. Starting to think about that long-term relationship with the patient versus just the treatments that they're coming in to get. So we can do this by combining proprietary treatments and creating a unique branding strategy that provides business benefits for your practice as well. So you'll have a product or a portfolio of products that are really showcasing you and not a device, and essentially differentiating you versus your competitors so that your patients will come in and see and perceive this offer and the value of this offer as something that is completely unique to what another doctor next door has. So what this is essentially going to do is protect you from price competition. So a patient can't call and ask, oh, how much is that? And compare apples to apples. It'll really be apples to oranges in terms of how they could differentiate this procedure. So we're really thinking about value and results. So honestly, bundled procedures address all of these objections that patients are already coming into you with on a daily basis. So I'm on a budget, right? Okay, Susie, you're on a budget, so here's how to get the best value. A bundled procedure. An objection, I'm not ready. The proprietary method of this bundled procedure lends instant credibility. So if they're not ready, you can talk to them about how this is a method that's proven. It's a system or a package that provides the best optimal outcomes. You could showcase before and after photos of patients who have had these treatments and experienced great results. Or maybe the objection is, well, I just want what my friend has. This is your opportunity to sit down and educate the patient on what's right for them and customize a treatment plan and increase that lifetime customer value. So how do we know what bundles to create, right? So start by looking at the trends. It's important to look at the trends to understand what's driving demand, but also definitely trust your gut, trust your instincts, look at the data and what's going on in your practice. And then also, who is your most valuable buyer? Who spends the most in your practice and what do they invest in? Listen, we know that when we look at the Aesthetic Society data, neuromodulators is a leading treatment by volume. But we also know that the average price per treatment is going down 20% year over year. Don't believe me? Go to Groupon and type in Botox. This is a very slippery slope because your costs are going up. Anybody pay less this year for Botox than they did last year? So this 40 units over here business model is going to eventually put practices out of business. On top of that, patients respond to marketing of branded procedures, but the majority are looking for a complete improvement. And what we do know is that no single procedure can really address all of the areas of facial aging. I mean, nobody actually wants Botox. Who actually wants to get poked in the face with a needle and have toxin placed in their head? Nobody. They just want to look freaking awesome, right? So if you look at the value of what your business can make from this transaction for a solo procedure, we're looking at a patient could come in and get Botox and maybe spend $450. They could get some filler, maybe spend $1,400, get an IPL series, maybe get another $1,000, skincare, peel, add on another $300, right? So we're looking at these little bite-sized pieces of revenue by selling single procedures or transactions versus putting together this proprietary bundled procedure that is going to include all of these treatments, are going to create a synergistic optimal outcome for the patient and increase our revenue into the $3,000 range. So let's talk about how to create your own bundles. Number one, we're going to start with outcomes in mind rather than thinking about specifically what is going into the bundle, right? This is why I call this outcome bundling. So I would start first by thinking about what is the outcome that that patient is looking to achieve. Then we're going to plug in the best treatment options to provide those optimal outcomes. And so when I'm thinking about that, then we will calculate the total retail price. Then we'll select a bundle value add or a package savings. So then we'll decide how much discount we want to give or how much value we'd like to provide that patient for buying the bundle or all of these specific solo procedures in one package. Then we're going to add in some perks, and then we'll talk about it and give it a perfect proprietary name and market it. So when we're thinking about outcome bundling, let's think about identifying 4 to 5 outcomes. So this is, again, where we'll go back and look at your data, look at your most valuable buyer. What are they investing in your practice? Use your gut. Think about what patients are coming to you for. Hopefully you have this documented somewhere. If you're not, you may have the instinct to know that. What would sell now? Maybe it's a seasonal thing. You're going to think about these outcomes in terms of what patients are actually coming to you for. So, for example, maybe it's pigment and brightening, or maybe it's lifting or tightening, or maybe you have a lot of patients where eyes are just your jam, right? And then once we have the outcomes, we're going to plug in the very best options for optimizing that outcome. So for example, if the outcome is pigment and brightening, we're going to think about the treatment plan. What do I offer in my practice? What services and products are going to do the best job of providing value and give the best outcome for that patient? Right? So I'm thinking of the outcome, then I'm going back to the variety of options, the tools I have in my tool belt to address that for the patient. Then we're going to calculate the total retail price for each procedure combined. So that's where we're going to take each of these. So maybe it's 4 IPL plus the skincare system plus a brightening facial. If the patient wants to come in for those independently, what would they pay? Now, when we put in a bundle, we can give it a nice value add discount. So here's your discount, right? It's like, Susie, here's your discount. Then we can create a discount based on the value of them buying them together. It could be simple, direct, 20% off, or maybe it's calculating what that 20% value would be and then offering an additional of that 20% value worth of something, skincare, something else, or a credit back to the practice. And then maybe we'll hit up our rep for something that they can include into this package. Next, we're going to add in perks. So this would look like additional retail products or samples, even numbing cream, right? Maybe it's a post-laser care package. This is where we're really going to think back to that experience, that special sauce, that really extra special thing that you do that maybe isn't a product or service at all. It's just a way of being. And we're going to include that as a perk into this package. Then we're going to give this bundle a proprietary name, and then we go to market. So one example was we had a client of ours, Dr. Desmond. He went with a Get the Ultimate Brilliant Even Skin Tone with a total skin brightening package, the Desmond Illuminate Blend and Brighten. Right? Then we're going to complete this process with each outcome we've written down. So remember, we started with 4 to 5 outcomes, and then just continue to repeat and so on. And so I put together a 4-page procedure bundling guide for you that is going to walk you through these steps and give you templates for creating your own bundles. You can go download that for free on my website at klcconsultants.com/bundle. You may download and print that and then come back and re-listen to this episode. It may make a little more sense in context as you're looking through the notes and following along with me. I also put in there an Excel file so you can go in and really shape up and build your own proprietary bundles. Listen, leader, let's work together to help retrain the aesthetic consumer by shifting our message to solving problems for patients versus pitching the next shiny object that will put money in the hands of companies and not showcase the unique experience and technique and specialties that we can provide patients. I hope this episode was helpful. And P.S., if you're a loyal listener, please do me a favor and share this episode with your followers on Instagram. This podcast is a free resource that my team and I create every single week with the sole purpose of helping aesthetic leaders create iconic influence in their markets. And I would so appreciate you sharing this message with someone else. Have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Fierce Factor. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe so you can automatically get new shows every week. I'd also love it if you left us a review. And come join the conversation online. If you're an aesthetic industry owner, operator, or leader, please join my free Facebook group, The Tribe of Fierce Aesthetic Leaders, a community of ambitious, purpose-driven professionals who collaborate and share best practices for growth in business and life. I'm honored you tuned in.